you know, I've been working toward my certification as a Reiki Master Practitioner. In these past few months, I have been immersed in that training. Immersed. In continuing these studies, there was a course I took a month or so ago that really had an impact on me, and I wanted to share it with you and talk about it, and talk about the implications. It's actually an experiment. It's called the Rice Experiment, and it's based on an experiment that was done in Japan with water and the impact of feelings and emotions on the water and our environment. The results of the study were published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration in 2008. This study was very elaborate, and they needed a laboratory and pretty extensive equipment to show and identify their results. The Rice Experiment, however, is an easy at-home experiment that also demonstrates this effect. We often talk about the impact we have on others. Sometimes we don't know what that impact is, ever. Sometimes we may know, but not for several years, or even another generation, when someone shares an experience that they had with you, or maybe one of your relatives, that really had a profound impact on them. Something in their life, one way or another. So this Rice Experiment gives you really a visual representation of what our thoughts and feelings and words can have on the environment, on you personally, and on others. Whether it's people, your house plants, your pets, the energy in your house, it's all impacted. Even though we hear things and we understand their meanings and concepts, sometimes when we see the visual representation, it can drive home the point a little bit more. So that's what I chose to speak about, and will be sharing with you what my experience has been. And I'd love to hear more from you and any of your experiences and what you may have witnessed, seen, or felt in this regard. In many of his writings, Thich Nhat Hanh referenced the term interbe. From an audio with Thich Nhat Hanh in 2009, he says, "We have the word to be, but what I propose is a word to interbe. Interbe. Because it's not possible to be alone, to be by yourself. You need your mother, father, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, society, but you also need sunshine, river, air, trees, elephants. So it is impossible to be by yourself alone. You have to interbe with everyone and everything else." I've been a fan of his teachings, and as I've continued my spiritualist practice, it's evident how his teachings are also shared by so many. The National Spiritual Alliance, for instance, has embedded in our principles one universe, many dimensions. From one source came all. No matter surface differences, all is within us, and each of us is within all else. And also from another spiritualist organization, they subscribe to, "We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expressions of infinite intelligence. We are all interconnected, interbeings." The water experiment I mentioned earlier is from the work of Masaru Emoto. He lived from July of 1943 through October 2014. He was a Japanese businessman, author, and pseudoscientist who claimed that human consciousness could affect the molecular structure of water. His 2004 book, The Hidden Messages in Water, was a New York Times bestseller. His early work revolved around pseudoscientific hypothesis that water could react to positive thoughts and words, and that polluted water could be cleared through prayer and positive visualization. From 1999, Emoto published several volumes of a work entitled Messages from Water, containing photographs of ice crystals and accompanying experiments, such as that as the rice experiment. Dr. Emoto conducted the rice experiment to demonstrate the power of positive thoughts. He believed that human consciousness has an effect on the molecular structure of water and that water can react to the positive thoughts and emotions. In his quest to prove the magical power of positive thinking, Dr. Emoto carried out the rice experiment. Emoto claimed that water was a blueprint of our reality and that emotional energies and vibrations could change its physical structure. His water crystal experiments consisted of exposing water in glasses to various words, pictures, or music, then freezing it and then examining the ice crystal's aesthetic properties with microscopic photography. Emoto held that different water sources produce different ice structures. For example, he held that water from a mountain stream, when frozen, showed structures of beautifully shaped geometric designs, but that water from polluted sources created distorted, randomly formed ice structures. He believed that human consciousness has an effect on the molecular structure of water, and that water can react to positive thoughts and emotions. Although Mr. Emoto certainly had his critics, doing the rice experiment for oneself has been a fascinating endeavor, and the community I'm involved in and sharing our respective results does make one at least wonder, if not sit up and take notice. So the rice experiment my visual aids. So you take 2 regular jars, boil them, sanitize them, making sure everything is nice and clean and not going to be contaminated in any way. And you make regular long grain white rice, and when the jars have cooled, you put some rice in one jar and rice in another jar and seal them. And then you write down 2 words, one very positive and one very negative, and tape it to the jars. So here I have gratitude. And that one is damnation. So gratitude, I'll confess, we're supposed to do this daily, and I don't do it daily. Gratitude, I pick up the jar and lovingly talk to it, tell it how beautiful it is. And John can attest to this because he was ready to call for support services the other day. But talking very gently and softly and beautifully and lovingly. And this jar was done mid-June, and it's still snow white and beautiful. It's gorgeous. And now damnation, I speak harshly, I yell at it, I tell it how ugly it is, how mean it is, that the root of all evil sits in this jar, and it's starting to change. And you probably can't see from there, but I invite you after to come up. I've got a nice blob of darkness sitting there, and looking on the bottom, it's starting to turn. It's not nice and white and shiny anymore. And talking about the effects of the words, is it, picking on John for, is when I talk, either I'm talking lovingly to a jar, cause concern, but then speaking so harshly, I've found I've had to do this work on this experiment, especially when the dog is out of the house, because it scared her. Mom doesn't talk that way. And she went running to find John. It's like, what's wrong with her? So you really see the impact of our words. And I did actually have a rather serendipitous event that occurred this last week while I was working on my experiment and on this presentation. And it drives home the point even more. The impact of our words. I was in a conversation with two very dear friends, and I allowed outside stresses really take the forefront in my mind and my energy. I spoke harshly and inappropriately. I knew in my heart what this did, and thinking about the rice jars, I could only imagine the dark, negative energy being transferred to them. I was feeling horrible, and I apologized, but knew damage had been done. I can only hope, like Dr. Emoto's experiment with the polluted water, by sending love and light and prayers to these two dear souls, the energy will again be cleared and run smoothly through us all. In closing, I wanted to speak again from Thich Nhat Hanh. Every thought you produce, anything you say, any action you do, it bears your signature. I thank you for your time and attention. And as I mentioned, if you would like afterwards to come take a closer look at the rice jars, please do. I'll be downstairs for the afternoon, so you can stop by. And they are still a work in progress, as we all are. But you can see the impact we have with the words we use. Peace.